Maybe worth
Totally.
level setting for the audience, like why agents matter versus normal AI. We're talking about things that can take a given goal and start executing against them in a way that's not just a single step. Most people might be
Yeah.
using ChatGPT or otherwise, where you give a single command and it comes back. I've said it way too many times in private to these two, but it's the remote control stage of AI, right? Where you're like, you
Yeah.
press a button, you get a result, but nothing else is happening.
Hmm.
Agents sort of represent a step beyond that, where I've given my agent a goal, and it might do a series of steps. It might try those same steps a few different ways and assess its own output, building towards the outcome I asked it to achieve. So,
Yeah.
autonomous working a little more than just responding to a simple query.
Yeah. I think it's worth calling out that this is starting to get to more of an iPhone moment, right? Like when
Yeah,
you actually
right.
say, go do this, and it's actually a non-trivial task. Right now,
Yeah,
you can still get some pretty impressive results when you say, make me this email or help me
yeah,
summarize. I mean, even when you look at, speaking of iPhone moments, Apple Intelligence, a lot of it is really just summarize this or do this.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's no real magic. But imagine you say, hey, like, I need to go like get this thing done, but I don't have the time. Can you go do that for me? And it can actually go work on it for like an hour and come back with something meaningful. Then suddenly people are like, wow. Like I think one of the
Yeah.
Agent E examples I saw was it was basically told, hey, like go find a jersey for my son, or some kind of like young child, and it had to infer like, oh well, this child I know is like this size, and so I need to go look for this. Oh, I checked this website, it's out of stock, so let me go somewhere else. So did this
Right, right, right.
actually really useful multi-step process instead of saying, like right now the concept would be go to Amazon and buy X. Now you say, go find me the best price on this and come back and tell me when it's in my cart. So now you can be a lot less hands on and still get an amazing result. I think people are going
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
like, that's kind of useful because, I mean, the very obvious consumer benefit here is suddenly it's almost like a real person, like really intelligent. And then there's multiple phases after that, but I think it's exciting to see this being open sourced and there being more progress. I think agents really are going to be the next kind of step here that consumers are probably going to be like, wow, this is super
Yeah.
useful.
I think it's worth asking, does this lead to a personalization of the internet? I think we'll have episodes on this sort of expanding, but like
Yeah.
right now the way you use the internet is I go to a website and aside from how what items are shown and how they're filtered,
Yep.
the website looks the same for you as it does for me. Right?
Yep.
Your Amazon homepage will have different items, but the layout will be the same, assuming we're in the same test group. I mean, I know there's some complexity here with how these websites A/B test different views, but it's
Yep.
very rare, if ever, am I getting a unique treatment of a website. But
Yep.
to that example of a jersey, you could imagine that a step down this line starts to become take content from the internet and bring it to me and arrange it in a way that makes sense to me.
Yep.
And that's very different than browsing where I go to a website that's laid out a specific way by the company. This is
Yep.
now like the company providing information to something that then arranges it for me in a unique way.
Yeah.
Does that change how we work, how we deal with data on the internet? Right? Do I have this personal browser? It feels wrong because browser still implies website. It's like, do I have this
Yeah.
personal representational layer all the time?
I,
I don't know.
I, I think that's exactly it. Like, I think it starts to re-examine like what are we even doing on the internet, right? As you say, like
Right.
I think representation layer is like the right kind of term, although it might be excessively complex. I think it really is like you're still wanting to interact with data in a certain way, and how that gets presented so far has not been changed, right? It's like
Right. Right.
imagine every book or every piece of media you consume is now tailored to exactly how you want it or need it, right? Like
Right.
there's this
Right.
again, this moves towards, in my opinion, the kind of utopia that AI offers, wherein things really just feel better for everyone.
Yep.
And that's likely because it's personalized for everyone. Everyone has different learning styles, everyone has different, preferences for aesthetics or function. So I think it will be interesting. I also do wonder how agents interact in this sort of space where everything is different, right? Like, do we
Yeah.
really need to take a step back and now be like, it is about the data and the not about the representation, but about the data and all that, because we can have, deep dive engineering and design and PM discussions about this, where we can talk about the internet being kind of poorly designed at the moment, and in terms
Sure.
of like how fast we like do things and like text and stuff like that. So that obviously makes it hard for agents to function. But maybe later on, when we do have these kind of higher level views of how people want to interact with the world, maybe it makes it a bit easier for them to like traverse and personalize and things like that.
I mean, if you folks want a book on this, quick plug for my favorite technology book is What Technology Wants by Kevin Kelly. A
Uh,
little older at this point, but Kevin Kelly used to be in charge of Wired Magazine. He was kind of the
Yep.
editor of Wired Magazine. And it's
Yep.
more of a philosophic text of like, if you personified technology, what does it want? What does it tend
Yep.
to strive towards? And he talked about this. He had this insight coming out of music. Like, one of the consequences of Napster, one of the consequences of music being easily accessible was that music would start getting remixed for the audience, and that would,
Mm,
over time, technology would make that easier and easier. So you
mm-hmm.
wouldn't just hear a new song; you might hear a song that was tailored to you. And I guess the closest to this is a Spotify radio station right now, where we're
Yeah.
not modifying the songs themselves, but what songs you get in what order will be different for each individual person. And that
Yep.
trend just feels like it scales with the rest of the internet, right?
Well, I mean, I always thought that that was going to be the obvious play of Meta, was that they wanted all this AI and so on, so that they could then effectively create video exactly how you wanted it.
Yeah,
Already we see
yeah, yeah.
like algorithmic video being so popular compared to what we previously had. Like we're gonna have entire episodes on brain rot and so on, but I really feel that it gets scary right now, even with just random videos, recommendations and so on get so good that you're just like, this is amazing. Now imagine that you can create any video you want on demand and cheap enough
Right.
so that we know exactly what you want to watch and we're going to keep on serving you. Like that's another layer of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
dopamine rush that we just haven't even played
Right.
with
It
yet.
takes it from nowadays. Meta and others are taking a bunch of content and
Yep.
curating it for you. Now
Yep.
they could generate it, right? They could say, okay, I know what you want, and here it is.
Yep.
Especially if you have character AIs, right? There's no
right.
limit to the
Character
idea that a
AIs.
character AI can be DMing a million people at once, customized to those people's tastes.
Correct. And then, I mean, this is where like Sora and stuff comes in, right? Or like Clang,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
other competitor is. Like you just create personalized brain rot, right? Just infinite Subway Surfer plus whatever content you actually want. I wonder how like addicting that gets, right? And like if you can
Right?
make it like
Yeah, yeah.
cheap, like if you're like, wow, we made like 10 videos for a cent, but the advertiser has paid us 2 cents, and our user is just straight like plugged into the matrix. They have no shot of wanting
Right.
to like hop off. It's a great, I mean, I hate to say it, it's a great business model, right? Because you
Sure.
just have infinite attention. But again, it does get to the point of it's kind of a scary consequence here.
Yeah, I mean, I have a maybe a bit more utopian view on this, which is like,
Yeah.
you know, right clearly right now, like this is just another thing. You don't need AI to generate brain rot and make that be like a huge percent of what the
Right.
young kids are watching, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
brain rot has such a huge brain share right now, which is like ridiculous. But I don't think it's going to go up much with AI. In fact, I think I would hope and I imagine that the opposite will happen, right? Which is that hey, you are, as you have always been, or at least for the last couple of years, you're facing this tsunami of brain rot and of Subway Surfers and a podcast and another video, right? Like stacked on top of each other. And then it's like, yeah, and sort to a certain extent, like we're saying, we get it because it's like firing all the dopamine and this is the best thing for your brain or whatever. But then it's and so yeah, that like mid TV show that's like the third reboot of some franchise your mom loved, right? Like isn't competing. But then maybe if Google like or let's say Disney Plus AI or Apple TV AI can generate like the show or the movie that's perfect for you, maybe that can compete with the brain rot. And so
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
my slightly
I like it.
happier view of the situation, I guess. And
Well, I think
and
that
it comes from a personal thing, which is that like I don't know if y'all have ever like it was sort of pithy when I said it before of like yeah rebooting the series for a third time, but that's like most entertainment now is like some
Mm.
third tier reboot of a series and like the original fans hate it and then the secondary fans hate it and then the new people like it and then give up on it and it's like Disney's is in a bit of a hurt situation because they're losing their Marvel fans and they're losing their classic Disney fans, and so it's like, hey, maybe you don't need to try to do this impossible problem of make content for everybody or make content for the loudest people or whatever it might be. It's like, oh, you can actually just make content for one person.